Superman is boring. He's too strong, he has too many powers, so he just wins every fight. And he's like this total Boy Scout, right? He never does anything wrong, so how can his stories be interesting? If you or a loved one has ever used one of these arguments, this is the video for you. I'm about to explain the 3 most common complaints with the Man of Steel, exactly why they're all completely baseless nonsense, and explain why Superman is one of the coolest and most compelling characters in all of fiction. I promise, if you don't care about Superman, you will by the time this video is over. I just need you to trust me. Ready? Here we go. The first and most common complaint I see online, and have heard from my friends in real life, is that Superman is too strong. He's got all the superpowers: flight, strength, speed, invincibility, so you know how every story is gonna go. Basically, his very existence saps any and all tension out of stories. Someone like Batman or Iron Man is way cooler because they have vulnerabilities, weaknesses. They might die every time they're thrust into danger, so you're always on the edge of your seat. It really feels like they're being heroic when they risk their lives, but why should I be inspired by an immortal alien god who saves people? He's never in any danger after all. Let's break down this one into pieces. Is Superman too strong? Is he completely invulnerable? And do either of those actually make him boring? The first thing you need to understand is that yes, Superman is very, very strong, but that alone doesn't make a character less compelling. I'm sure you don't think Thor is boring. He's a literal god, and him showing off his incredible strength, rocking up on Thanos, was a lot of people's favorite part of Infinity War. Or Goku. Everybody loves when he shows up on Namek at the last possible second to save the day and kick Frieza's ass with his overwhelming power. It's clear that general audiences don't hate a hero who's impossibly strong. The worry is that the hero can't be challenged. No one wants to watch a good guy effortlessly wipe the floor with every single villain. And that's where the crux of this issue lies. Most people who think Superman is boring have never actually read a Superman comic or watched one of his TV shows. They only know about him through general cultural consciousness. The Flash, who's faster than everything ever, should be super boring, right? After all, he can just move so fast that he instantly beats all the bad guys in a fraction of a second. But that's not how Flash stories go. He has to contend with villains that match his speed, affect his mind, alter time, or create tears in reality that send him to different dimensions. His incredible speed is an asset, but it's not a win button. Even characters heralded as the absolute strongest in their entire world, like Satoru Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, they still have weaknesses, vulnerabilities. They're still susceptible to being overcome in tricky ways. That's why fiction is fun. We love to see creative writers come up with new and interesting ways for our incredible heroes to be challenged. As one last example, everyone thought Sentry was dope in the Thunderbolts, despite the fact that he dog-walked every protagonist in that movie and was explicitly stated to be stronger than every other Avenger we know and love. Thor, Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, all of them. And part of the reason he was so cool is because he had a limitation. His incredible power is balanced by the threat of the void. That leads me to the second misconception here. Superman is not literally all-powerful. He has limitations, weaknesses, desires, and he makes mistakes. There are plenty, and I mean plenty, of ways for him to be challenged. Villains like Parasite sap his super strength as they fight. He can be manipulated and mind-controlled by villains like Joker or Poison Ivy. Metallo and Lex Luthor both use kryptonite. You know, the most popular superhero weakness ever, virtually every single time they fight him. And then there's powerhouses like Doomsday, Zod, Lobo, and Darkseid. They all match his impossible strength and durability. Watching Superman fight Zod has the exact same stakes for the hero as when Batman fights Deathstroke. He could die, or at the very least get his ass beat long enough for civilians or his loved ones to die. You know how everyone loves when Spider-Man gets his suit all torn up in particularly dangerous battles, showing his battle damage and partially exposing his face from under the ripped mask? That shit happens to Superman like every other week. He gets bruised and burned and cut and battered. He suffers in his fights just like any other hero, but it's usually because he was pierced by a god-killing magic trident or had a planet dropped on his head. What people seem to misunderstand is that Superman stories, and all fictional stories that are even slightly well written, have the stakes rise to meet the hero. Their plots and rivals are just as stupidly powerful as they are. Superman's powers never ruin the plot unless the plot is written by someone with no creativity or vision. Moving on to our second common complaint, Superman is too good. He's too nice, there's no edge to him. Sure, he might get beat up when he fights bad guys, but he's always gonna do the right thing. He's not relatable, and no one wants to watch a movie about a perfect guy who just lectures the audience about doing the right thing all the time. He's basically a giant flying narc. His fights might be cool, but the character is a total square. Again, this is a misconception that I think you can only believe if you've never actually engaged with any Superman content. Yes, Superman is a paragon. By definition, he's a shining example of morality for other characters to look up to. But is that really boring? You tell me, do you think Captain America is lame? He's obviously a paragon, but everybody loves Cap. We love to see him stick to his principles in Winter Soldier and Civil War. We cheered for him when he showed up to save the day in Infinity War and lifted the hammer in Endgame. We love that he's worthy, moral, and ideal to strive towards. Or what about Luke Skywalker? He's easily the most compelling in Return of the Jedi, where he's this wise, patient, hopeful beacon of morality that breaks through Darth Vader's hardened heart. In anime, we love Naruto and Tanjiro and Mob and Deku, heroes who unabashedly do the right thing even when it's difficult, even when it's not popular or it might get them killed. We yearn to see that type of morality, the kind we aspire to. To be clear, this is not a knock on flawed or immoral characters. I love Walter White and the Punisher, but a character doesn't need to be morally gray in order to be compelling. Anyone who thinks this either never got to experience seeing a paragon inspire hope in others, or they're stuck in a perpetual edgy middle schooler phase. Newsflash, earnestness isn't cringe, and kindness isn't lame or boring. As a bit of a tangent, this mindset is why evil Superman has been so popular for so long. Injustice, Homelander, Brightburn, evil Future Vision Superman in the Zack Snyder movies. We've been subjected to this idea non-stop for over a decade because some people don't get that Superman can be likable and fun to watch without making him scary. In fact, it's the exact opposite. There is a very popular saying, power corrupts. And it's true, when you hand a regular person power, they're probably going to use it to lord over other people. It's human nature. We are flawed, greedy, and egotistical. For power to not corrupt someone, they must have a very strong moral character. That's rare, and that's why Superman is compelling. He's a guy who has more power than almost anybody, and he has a very good reason to become a nihilist or authoritarian. His whole world got blown up as a baby. He's the last member of a dead race, stuck on a world with technology and culture hundreds or thousands of years behind that of Krypton. Why not become the ruler of Earth? No one could stop him. He could live like a king for thousands of years, and yet he chooses to spend all of his time just helping people. And not powerful nations or important interest groups. He helps everybody, even the little kid with her kite stuck in a tree. He does with ultimate power the opposite of what most people would try to do. How does that not fascinate you? Don't you want to peek inside his head to learn how he ticks? Don't you want to follow his life and see how he makes decisions? All of that is to say, just like how Superman is strong but not completely invulnerable, he's a paragon, but he's not perfect. He still has flaws and weaknesses of character that make for extremely interesting storylines. When you live your whole life indestructible and super fast, you tend to save people by reflex, which might actually make things harder and hinder teamwork when working on a team of superheroes who can all take care of themselves. For all he's seen, he's still a small-town boy. He can be naive or overly trusting, or when he's been scorned by a villain, his trigger finger might be a little too itchy. Like in Justice League Unlimited, he's completely incapable of trusting anything done by Lex Luthor, which led to him destroying a nuclear reactor meant to provide free power to impoverished people because he thought it was a bomb. Superman has a secret identity. He has to navigate the morality of keeping secrets from his loved ones in order to protect them from villains and criminals, when there's often not a right thing to do, only bad options in that sort of situation. He has a strong sense of justice, but maybe that means he loses control of his temper, or maybe his fear of civilian casualties prevents him from using his full strength when fighting a villain, and more people end up getting hurt as a consequence of that. All of these are just off the top of my head. The point is, there is no shortage of unique and interesting situations for a good and well-meaning Superman to come up against, which leads me to my punctuation of this point. Superman is not Batman. We watch Batman for a bunch of reasons. He does cool detective work to unravel interesting mysteries, he has a fun dynamic and interpersonal drama with the Bat family, and he uses awesome ninja skills and gadgets to beat up bad guys and escape traps. But at the heart of a lot of Batman stories, the general theme is about how the human spirit will not break. When he's been poisoned in the desert in a duel against Ra's al Ghul, or wandering a labyrinth built by the Court of Owls for weeks without food or water, Batman is most inspiring when we see his grit, his determination, his relentless will to survive and keep pushing forward. Now, this is obviously a universal virtue present in countless heroes: Green Lantern, Black Panther, Straw Hat Luffy, and yes, Superman. But it's at the heart of most Batman stories. Superman is not the same. He definitely has stories that explore his willpower, but at the heart of a good Clark Kent story is his unbreakable moral fiber. When Superman has his back up against the wall, everything on the line, he will always choose the morally correct path. He's not perfect, but when it comes down to the wire, Superman will do the right thing, in the same way that Batman will never give up. When you understand that and stop looking for the shades of Batman in the Superman story, that's when you start to get it. But okay, maybe you understand that Superman isn't all-powerful or all good. He suffers like we do and experiences moral dilemmas like we do, but that doesn't matter. He's an alien. He fights giant robots and space monsters and shoots lasers out of his eyes. He's just not relatable. You can't appreciate his stories because they're too fantastical or silly or out there. I mean, really, his dog can fly too? This sort of thing is just too whimsical to properly engage with. This is the third most popular critique of Superman. He's not relatable. Someone like Daredevil gets in backflipping fistfights and sure, has some enhanced senses, but that's easy to wrap your head around. It's a whole nother step out of reality to accept the flying guy in blue tights with freeze breath. To this one, I have a very simple response. One I don't even need to write myself. I saw Superman not as a superhero or even a science fiction character, but as a story of every man. We are all Superman in our own adventures. We have our own fortresses of solitude that we retreat to, with our own special collections of valued stuff, our own super pets, our own bottle cities that we feel guilty for neglecting. We have our own peers and rivals and bizarre emotional or moral tangles to deal with. American writers often say they find it difficult to write Superman. They say he's too powerful. You can't give him problems. But Superman is a metaphor. For me, Superman has the same problems we do, but on a Paul Bunyan scale. If Superman walks the dog, he walks it around the asteroid belt because it can fly in space. When Superman's relatives visit, they come from the 31st century and bring some hellish monster conqueror from the future, but it's still a story about your relatives visiting. These are quotes from legendary comic and screenwriter Grant Morrison, and he hits the nail directly on the head. On a meta level, Superman is exactly like it says on the tin, a man, but made super. He's a guy. He falls in love and gets annoyed at work and has hopes and dreams and fears. He wants to make his parents proud and spend time with his buddies and make a difference in the world. He's like all of us, just magnified. There are countless ways we can relate to his life and struggles. He's adopted. He knows what it's like to be a fish out of water, to feel like you don't belong. He's frequently underestimated by those around him. His intentions are often misunderstood or misinterpreted as selfish. He gets misjudged and hated by others through no fault of his own. He feels loneliness, fear of losing those close to him, fear of accidentally hurting someone. These are all human struggles that I and you know very well. Unfortunately, our last major representation of Superman on the big screen was kind of a quiet, grumpy guy who only really cared about his girlfriend, sort of. He was portrayed as this lonely god, burdened by humanity, but that couldn't be more incorrect. It's not that Superman is the real identity, while Clark is just a facade, a silly caricature of humans that Superman wears to keep a secret. Clark Kent is the person he was raised as. If he wanted, Superman could spend his entire life wearing the costume and cape, but he spends his life as Clark because he loves humanity. He loves to be a part of it. He loves to be one of us. He's not a minor god looking down on us. He's a Superman pulling his fellow men upwards. Do you have a favorite friend? Someone you're always excited to see showing up at an event or a gathering? I do. He's not perfect, but he's always kind. He's always there to lend a hand, crack a joke, or just listen when I'm having a really shitty day. He can't do everything, but I know I can rely on him when I'm in trouble, and just knowing that puts me at ease. If you have a friend anything like this, tell me, do you ever get bored of him? Do you feel yourself getting annoyed that he's too nice or too helpful, too reliable? Do you ever not want to spend time with him? I certainly can't imagine that, which is exactly why I don't understand why people see these exact qualities in Superman and have no interest. One of my earliest memories was when I was about 3 years old. My mom had to help one of her relatives move, so to keep me preoccupied, they sat me down in front of a TV in the attic and played the VHS with the first 3 episodes of Superman the Animated Series. I remember so vividly watching Clark have the discussion with his parents as they told him he was adopted. They discovered him as a baby in a spaceship that crash-landed on their farm. He wasn't of this world, and yet they still loved him and accepted him. And I remember being captivated by that. I was adopted too, so I had to know more about this guy. I watched him wrestle with those feelings of fear and anger as he ran off into the distance and stumbled up into the air, taking flight for the first time. He was different and that scared him, but it meant he was special. And as I kept watching, I saw the scene where Lois Lane stumbled into trouble with several criminal gunmen, and as they opened fire on her, in an instant, Superman swooped in to protect her, standing tall as the bullets bounced right off his chest. He was different, and he used his differences to help people, to protect them, to make the world a better place. Maybe one day, I could use my differences to make the world a better place. I think that was the first time in my life I ever felt real, conscious inspiration. That's what Superman is. He speaks to a deeper part of us, a part that yearns to be kinder, wiser, greater. That's what Superman means to me, a magnified everyman who suffers the pains of fear, rejection, and malice with a hopeful smile and an outstretched hand. He's not all-powerful, but the power he does have won't corrupt him. He's not morally perfect, but he always strives for righteousness. Superman is a light, a beacon to strive towards. He's your favorite friend, your inspiration, and I think this world needs a lot more stories about someone like that. Stay frosty.